This is the Rise to Triumph podcast, and my name is Crystal Torres. I am on a mission to discover the key components of success of today's top TV and film industry professionals. If you are interested in becoming a working TV film professional or intrigued by the journey and are looking to surround yourself with the best industry minds, then this, my friends, is for you. Each week, we will have a chance to listen in on conversations that I have with industry professionals and explore the behind the scenes of what it truly takes to rise to triumph. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Rise to Triumph podcast. My name is Crystal Torres. I hope you guys are having a beautiful week. And let's get into it. So this week we are speaking with casting director Erica S. Bream. But first, if you missed our last episode, we spoke to and True Love. I believe that's actually her real name. And she's a film editor, and she breaks it down, her perspective and the film editor's perspective of what actors don't see in the cutting room floor. Ooh. No, but honestly, I thought it was a very intriguing, very enlightening conversation. And also, I think it's just great to see and hear other people's perspectives, especially from a film editor who will see your scene hundreds and hundreds of times as he or she is cutting it in the film. So definitely an episode that I recommend listening to. But first, as I said, we speak with casting director Erica S. Bream, and she has worked on so many different projects, such as TV series Colony, Revolution, Workaholics, House of Lies, Criminal Minds, and Law and Order LA. She's also worked on several feature films like Star Trek Into the Darkness. And she has worked on many short films and casting award films, AFI shorts, all of that amazing stuff. So I would say that she might know a little thing or two about the casting process, about actors, because she sees and brings a lot of them in for her projects. So we talk about a lot of different things, some being obviously like what to expect in the audition room. And also I like to understand her perspective of what happens behind the scenes and her relationship with the producers and the directors and the executives on who ultimately gets that job, and that, hey, they have a job too. And of course, you think you're the most perfect person for the role, but everyone has an opinion. And but you know, she has so many enlightening and amazing stories that she speaks to us about, and yeah, a lot of great stuff. So without further ado, enjoy. If there's something that maybe you would want like your fellow industry people, actors, directors, producers know about your world as like the casting director, know that maybe, you know, sometimes you feel like it's glossed over or maybe
as casting directors, we have a lot to say on this topic. The biggest thing, and this is specifically for actors, is to remember that casting directors are on your side. I think they're, auditioning is a very difficult and anxiety-ridden process for most people. And it's easy to feel that the person on the other side of the camera is not there for you. And that's not the case at all. We are always there for you. We want you to succeed. We want to work with you. We want to get the best performance with you together. And it's just easy to sort of forget that if we're having a bad day or whatever, and we're not giving you the energy that you want, then it automatically feels like we're just working against you. But that is never the case. Casting directors and actors work in tandem, and the relationship is very important to us. And we do really want it to thrive. So that's the most important thing for the actors. And then for producers, it's, remembering that what we do really is a craft. We work hard at it. We're not just there making phone calls and, babysitting personalities.
We are just clicking
being creative. Exactly. If that's all it was, then anybody would do it. But it's not. There's a lot to it. There's a craft to what we do in the room with the actors. There's a craft to coming up with the ideas that we do come up with. Painting the picture. And that, that's not just for producers, that's for directors and writers and everybody else who doesn't fully understand what casting does. That's really the biggest thing for us, is being recognized for the creative work that we do. I don't know if you ever saw a documentary on HBO. It's called Casting By.
But it definitely gave me a new profound respect. Yes.
It was an incredible piece, just sort of outlining what we do and how and why it's important. And it came out a couple of years ago now, and I remember watching that and just weeping. And my husband was like, what is going on? And I was like, it just spelled everything out, and it's so important that people understand what we do. And oh man, I tell you, I highly recommend that documentary to anybody.
I'll probably watch it again just because it's just good information just to remember, and also to know the history behind that. I don't know if maybe for some people that haven't heard it yet, if there's something that you would like to highlight from that I guess that did really resonate. I know a lot of it probably did, or all of it, but was there something specific that you're like that?
Well, sure. There's so it highlights the career of one of the sort of, I guess you could call her the original casting directors, Marian Doherty, and her career, and how she sort of started. I don't want to misspeak or misremember her career, so forgive me if I just sort of glossed over this a little bit. But how she started and how she rose up to cast some of the biggest movies of anybody's memory. And how she really didn't get a lot of credit for it. And there was, I think it was the producer of Midnight Cowboy, if I remember correctly, who she wanted main title billing and he wouldn't give it to her. And so she said, then I don't want any billing. And he's interviewed on the documentary saying that I regret that to this day. I mean, she found all of these people. She found John Voight for that movie. Yeah. She found Dustin Hoffman. They also talk about a bunch of they interview a bunch of other people as well. But they get into several other casting directors, the long-term casting directors. Woody Allen has had the same casting director for most of his career, and then moved on to her predecessor, or her mentee, if you will, so in the same family. And it just goes through all of these different things about how so many of these casting directors have these wonderful relationships with their producers and directors. And those producers and directors understand what these casting directors do and how it is so important to the fabric of their films. And then they interview some people who don't get that at all. And you can really see the difference in terms of the two feelings about what we do and who we are. It's such a special documentary. I really can't speak highly of it enough.
To ask you, because you spoke about the craft of the casting director. Now, I mean, you hear about the actor's craft, so what entails the craft of the casting director? What is that process for you as a casting director?
Sure. So it's a little bit different for every project, and certainly every casting director has their own version of this. But for me, the first thing is getting the script and reading the script and understanding the script. There's a lot of stories out there nowadays where, with all the different sci-fi and weird names, I'm sure, whoever read the first Game of Thrones script, with all these weird names and different languages and whatever, you have to really make sure that you are understanding what's going on. So reading and understanding it and understanding the characters and the world that they're in, that's really the most important thing right off the bat. Because after that, if you say you have a character and it's a 30-year-old male, well, you could just come up with a list of 30-year-old men who could play it if they, assuming they want some big name. But there's so much more to understanding. Can this actor handle that? Do they have the qualities that they can bring to this specific character in this specific world? And not just they're bringing their name to it. That's what you have to really look at is what can the actor pull out of this character to make it come to life. So knowing the actors, knowing their work, knowing what they're capable of, that's really where the craft comes into it. So that's what we do. So that's where we start is by just breaking down the script, seeing what kind of characters we have, because, you're looking at this one character, but how does it relate to this other character? And are they going to need to have chemistry? Are they going to have a romantic relationship? Are we looking for characters where we want a real kind of person? So, if it's a, transgender character, making sure that we honor the transgender community and look for those people, that kind of thing.
So there's a lot of elements. That you're like, so do you feel like, is this all like in your head, like while you're processing it? Do you have like a checklist? Like, how does that happen? Because that's like a lot of information.
I've read so many scripts over the years now that I'm pretty good at just reading it all the way through and then going back and breaking it down. Because if I start breaking it down while I'm reading it, my brain just starts casting and I stop paying attention to the story. So, that's a little, but I know a lot of people are better if they start, writing down the characters and descriptions as they go so they can kind of keep track of things. But for me, I have to understand the story before I can understand the characters. So I have to make it all the way through. And sometimes I have to make it through twice, just depending on how dense or how different the material is. We were working on this one sci-fi project, and it's all terminology and characters and language that is just way out there. And to understand what they're saying, who they're talking to, and which one is which, you had to read it a couple times to really, put it into perspective. But a lot of scripts are much more straightforward, and you can follow them more linearly.
You have to be you have to be the best script detective out there, right? Because if you don't get it, then how are you supposed to make sure that it translates to an actor getting it, right?
Absolutely. That's completely it. And that will happen a lot. If there's a script that's a little bit difficult to understand for one reason or another, whether it's the genre or we just maybe haven't given the actor the full script for the audition, and so they're just kind of trying to piece things together. But we oftentimes will have actors come into the room and we'll have to sit and sort of digest it together, explain the context a little bit, because if the actor doesn't have that, they're just reading lines. There's no real purpose behind the scene. So we always try to make sure that they understand where they're coming from, who they're speaking to, why they are in this situation, what it means for them having come from wherever to now going to wherever. So we really try to break that down. And sometimes having the full script helps you with that, but sometimes having the full script still confuses you, and you still need to to go over it with somebody. So we'll do that often in the room with the actor before they actually read.
Your process, like when I know you're you're very seasoned at this, so you've been able to, you know, like you said, now be able to just pick up a script and kind of get through it, you know, for the most part, unless if it's like some random sci-fi drama. But like, are you are you is there something specific that maybe how casting directors will read a script that maybe as an actor I can kind of like, you know, because I feel like you will get it more. And I mean, as an actor, you know, you have your own ways as well. But is there something specific that maybe we can take from your tools that you use as to break down scripts and stuff?
You know, I don't think so. It really comes with time and experience. I think reading scripts is a skill that needs to be developed. It's not easy. It's, you know, because it's you're reading it, and between the stage direction and the dialogue, you have to really focus on, you know, I think people focus on different things. So an actor looks at a script, and first of all, they're looking at their specific role. So they're maybe not paying as much attention to the other ones, even though they're reading it. And then they're also focused more on the dialogue than they are on the stage direction. Whereas where I'm reading it in totality. You know, I'm looking at the entire picture. Right. I'm reading all of the dialogue equally. So I think that maybe is the biggest difference in terms of the way that we read it. But it's still, you know, all I can say to any actor is just read scripts. Just start reading them, because, you know, if you're not skilled at, if you're not used to it, we'll say that, if you're not used to reading a script, it takes a really long time to get through it. And then you'll have to go through because you didn't fully follow it. And it really kind of, it's taxing. It's difficult. So get your hands on any script. It doesn't have to be a current script. It can be any old script, and just start reading them, just to get used to going back and forth between dialogue and stage direction, switching scenes, understanding, you know, interior, exterior, you know, getting used to the flow between the different characters. And, you know, because for me, when I read a script, I'm picturing it based on the stage direction, but I'm also kind of hearing a voice, you know, when I first read a script. As soon as I understand what the character is, I start to hear it in an actor's voice.
So you already have, I know sometimes and that you have actors in mind already, or it's just like a voice of an actor?
Yeah, it sort of becomes my own personal prototype. It could be totally wrong based on what the director or writer thinks, or producer thinks, but I hear it, and then I follow that voice through the rest of the script, and it kind of makes it come alive to me. And then that usually will start my creative process. And then again, the creative process may need to be tweaked once we collaborate with the rest of the creative team. But that's how I start. But it takes a minute. It doesn't happen immediately. It's once you understand sort of the original description of the character, and hear a couple of their lines and hear them in a couple of different scenes with different people, then you just immediately get this vision of, oh, that I know this person could kill it. And you just hear the voice throughout the rest of the script as you're reading it. And actors may get that, but cast directors, that's what we do. And so I think it makes it easier for us to picture the whole thing as a whole piece, as opposed to, this is my part in this piece. So that's, I think, the biggest difference. So, you know, I don't know how an actor can train themselves to forget to look specifically at their role and just look at the whole piece. Because I think that's sort of what you do as an actor, is you read a piece and you think, this is the character I connect with. And that's the one you tend to follow. So disengaging yourself from that, I think, is difficult, or maybe even impossible. But you know, I think being able to do that would really make it easier to get through a script quicker, but also understand the larger context more easily. But I just don't know that that's something you can train yourself to do.
I was curious to know, like, what's your process. So that was good though. I kind of wanted to then ask you, was there or has there been like this like pivotal moment that that you were like, okay, I'm gonna be like this working casting director, you know, like that you were like, my career's on the right way, or, you know, like, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I've had a couple of moments like that. When I was 18, I started interning at a talent agency, and they sent me over to a commercial casting director just for the day because I told them I was interested in casting. And I just sat in the lobby with the actors. I checked people in. I answered phones. I took Polaroids, and just being in the room with all of these actors. And this was a commercial. It was quick.
Yeah.
Nobody was there for very long. I didn't know any of the actors, but just the energy of being in that room with the actors was intoxicating to me. And then being able to see who got the job at the end of it was fascinating. And again, it's not like I sat in the lobby and stared at all these faces and tried to, suss out who was going to get the job. It was just the whole process I thought was so exciting. So that was the very first time that I was like, ooh, this is definitely something that I'm going to be into. And then the second time I interned for Mally Finn, dearly wonderful, sweet departed Mally Finn. She had a gazillion interns, and they were all actors except for me and one other girl. And the way she sort of repaid her interns was by having an individual lunch with each of them and asking them where they wanted their career to go, what they were doing to get there, and then giving them advice. And so she did that with all the actors. And of course, for them, it was a massive benefit. She sat me down and she said, okay, so you want to be an actor? And I was like, oh no, actually, I want to be a casting director. And she just lit up and she was like, here are 10 different books. Here are these different things you need to do. You have to go to these different film schools and cast their films. And she just put me on this path and got me excited in a different way. And, in a more, I don't want to say left brain way, but she sort of, after being in a casting office and interning with her and seeing her process and being part of her process, but then going back and sort of studying casting in a way that I never thought to do, was fascinating. And I'm totally a researcher. So when she handed me a bunch of different books and stuff like that, I was like, oh, this is totally up my alley. I didn't even think it. Casting's not something you can study yet. We're all working on that. I think there's a couple of different programs that they're trying to develop both at the university level and through the Casting Society of America. But at the time, certainly it was not something you could study, which is why my internships were so valuable. So for her to hand me these different books and say, study these different acting techniques so you can understand what the actor's going through, read these books about being an actor on set, do these different things, see these kinds of plays, go to these film schools. It was just like, I have a purpose now. Now there's something tangible that I can do to understand my craft better, to build it. And that was really meaningful to me, to be able to do something proactive. I was in film school and I was doing all that stuff, but I went to USC. I made very bad films. I was not your typical film student.
So when you went into film school, was the idea to learn about that process so that you can better use that as an asset for casting, or you didn't know at that point that you wanted to get into casting?
I knew I was interested in casting, and I knew it was something that I wasn't going to be able to study. So I wanted to study something that I would be passionate about. And I actually went to USC and I started in the business program, and I was just doing so bad, so bad in that program. And so I transferred into the film school, and the film school has a program called Critical Studies, and that sort of focuses on the theory and the history of filmmaking as opposed to the physical production. Okay. So anybody in the film school, no matter what department you are in, has to make student films. So I made them, and they were awful.
We need to see them.
I got to focus. Oh yeah, they are. Thankfully, They are on a VHS and nobody has VHS players anymore. So they'll just die slowly, which is good. But yeah, so I got to focus on critical thinking and critical theory, which actually has helped my casting a lot, which is great. But it's not something I thought of when I entered the program. It was just kind of, this is the program that fit me best. But it definitely learning how to be critical and constructive, was a skill that I learned in school, which certainly, has been a major benefit to my casting and working with actors.
Sorry, I don't know if
No, it's fine. So, being able to critique a performance or, in film school, a film, by giving them constructive feedback as opposed to just, I didn't like this, or this didn't work, or, I wish you hadn't done it this way. Because your first instinct is to be like, that didn't work, but being able to articulate why it didn't work, and how it could have worked better is a skill that I learned in film school. And I think, actors you have to be able to work with them in the room. And if you just cut them down, it just shuts them down. If I just said, that wasn't good, let's do it again. I mean, that's, you're not gonna get a good performance after that.
Figure out how to make this better.
And the next take's not gonna get any better if I just come at it from that perspective. But and you see actors actually do that to themselves all the time, where they'll be in the room, they'll finish a take and be like, that sucked, and we'll be like, no, and we'll direct them, we'll give them a note, but they're now already in their head thinking that sucked, and they can't totally break out of it. So it goes ways, whether I say it to you or you say it to you, both ways are going to shut an actor down. It's fascinating. So that was probably my most wonderful skill that I picked up in film school, that and just reading and watching and learning and, being open to all of those different things were all things that I learned in film school. So it did pay off, Mom and Dad. I know it seemed like a major that wasn't going to take me anywhere.
Think oh, what are you doing? You're not even going to produce films or something?
They were very supportive. They've always been very supportive, but I graduated and I couldn't get an interview at all anywhere. And this was back before all of these different cable networks were doing television. So there was a very distinct hiatus season between, May and July 4th. And I graduated mid-May, and I didn't know about this hiatus season. And I was just dying to get hired. I had all these internships. I just graduated from the USC Film School, and I thought, I'm going to get hired in a hot minute and get an interview. And I was panicking, as trying to figure out what I was supposed to do. And I remember I had one conversation with my mom, and she was saying, like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Is there anything else you want to do? Is there a master's program you want to look into? But they were never tried to sort of dissuade me from doing it. It was just more, they wanted to make sure that I was going to survive and be able to, one day pay my own rent. But they were always great. Which is good, because I think not everybody who goes into film school, especially into my program in film school, has such wonderful support, because it does seem like it's really not going to take you very far.
That's awesome.
So they were always great.
So like, let's talk about your. Are there people that you probably came up with that were also into casting, but you noticed that because of what, like, ABC that you did, or like maybe certain work ethics that you had that allowed you to garner your success, like certain things?
Do You mean, did I follow in anybody's footsteps, or did I mentor anybody into it?
If you,
how do you mean?
There's just certain things that you did that, that sets you apart from other people in casting, or that were trying to get into that, and maybe just it didn't happen for them?
Well, that I don't know. I'd like to think that a few things that do set me apart, just based on sometimes the feedback I get, is my attitude. I always go into auditions with the best attitude possible, for the reasons that we talked about before, where, if casting is in a bad funk, which happens to us, Lord knows, it reflects on the actors. If I can't give the actor something, whether it's information or a good reading performance or whatever, they're not going to succeed as well as they could. There's a lot of things that affect the actor's performance in the audition room. And so I try to minimize anything that could go wrong by just walking in there with the best attitude possible. Just be warm, be open for them, because the actors in there doing the tough stuff. And I have to be present for them.
That's so sweet.
So,
yay, thank you.
we try. I think every casting director walks into the audition room with that same idea in mind, but it doesn't always work for us. Like I said, if we got, we're human. If we're having our own personal issues, if we sat in traffic for 2 hours, it's the exact same things that affect actors when they walk into the audition room. If we had a bad call with our studio exec, if we're frustrated by a deal that we're trying to make with an agent, anything like that can really throw us off. So I think we all walk in there, and not everybody can put it aside. But I always try to make sure that I do. That I hope, if an actor or a producer or a director remembers one thing about me, I hope it's that I always had a good attitude when I was in the audition room, or creatively, just in general. It's really easy to be frustrated when they say, we don't have it, we need to keep looking, and you've read thousands of people already. And actually that's something I learned from April Webster, who I've worked with for a very long time, and she is amazing when we are knee deep in the thick of it. We've been on a project for several weeks, and we feel like we've cast it 10 times over, and the producer still isn't seeing it. She is amazing about saying, okay, we're going to keep looking. And she finds new places to look. She's so good about having that attitude. And I've tried really hard to learn that attitude, that particular attitude from her, because that's always the point when I get emotional and I want to be like, you're wrong. We found it. Look at this
and does
person
that happen?
again.
Like, where sometimes you're like, hey, why don't you just kind of give this other person a look again? Or yeah.
Totally. And it usually happens after we've done one more push and gone back and looked under one other rock that we hadn't looked under, and tried to pull out a couple more reads. And then we'll say, here's the couple more reads that we pulled for you. Now go back and look at this person too.
Just kind of
we will often get them. Exactly. Because it's hard, casting directors are good at, okay, this person we saw and we love them and we can remember that and we can remember their performance. But a producer and director and writer are doing 8 million other things at the same time. So they don't necessarily have that same skill. So if we show them somebody in week 1 who was just awesome and nailed it, but we're going through a process, so we're still seeing more people, they'll easily forget that person, because now they've seen 20 more auditions or 30 more auditions for that same role. And they can't recall it the way that we can. So if we don't show it to them again, it kind of just gets lost. So that will happen. It does absolutely tend to happen. And we have to be the ones to say, yes, we understand that you feel like you haven't seen it, but remember what we talked about with this first person. Take a look at their read again. We can adjust them if we need to. Because oftentimes as the casting process goes through, the script changes, the characters change. different things like that. So somebody who read in week 1, their read may not actually be viable for what we're looking for now. But if they have the qualities that we all like and we're all attracted to, then we can go back and have them reread. It's so easy to do, and the actors are always open to it. We just had this actually on a project. We were doing a pilot, and we had sort of an overly long amount of time on this pilot, which never happens.
What's that time
Pilots
frame
are always
that's
really
longer
quick.
than a normal pilot type one?
So a normal pilot is anywhere between like 6 and 10 weeks. That's pretty average. This pilot we had like 6 months on, which is like doing a movie. I mean, it's a crazy amount of time.
Yeah, because then you're like, well, since we have more time, let's just.
Exactly. It was a lot. It was a lot of time. And that was partially due to the process that the whole project was going through, not just for casting. It wasn't like 6 months because we needed it. It was 6 months because the project was going through writing, and it had a bunch of effects that had to be worked out beforehand and stuff like that. So, but we had this very long process. So we were reading these women for the lead female and rereading them, and we got new sides like 5 different times to show different sides to her, or to pull out a different quality from the actresses, and reading and rereading and rereading again and retaping and all of these different things. And finally, at the end, we did a chemistry read with our lead male actor and 3 women, and they liked it and they thought they found it, but not everybody was on board. So we did a new chemistry read with 2 other women and some new material. And again, they kind of liked it, but they weren't totally sold. And so we were missed whether they hadn't yet read or they had read originally and we hadn't seen them again. And somebody who had read probably the first week, and we brought her right to a chemistry read with new material.
What?
And she's the one who got the role.
You just read her like one time in the beginning, and then.
Yeah, she came back in. She did a work session with us before the chemistry read, just because she hadn't done it in several months. And she was like, she walked back in, and I was like, hey, I bet you're wondering what happened to us and why you're back here. And she was like, yeah, I kind of forgot about you guys. And I was like, yeah, welcome back. So, it does happen that way. Usually the process is not quite that long, and the actor hasn't forgotten about you. But yeah, it does happen that way a lot of the time, where you go back to somebody who you responded to in the first go around. It happens a lot.
Wow.
So yeah, all those actors that are always nervous about being the first ones in, they shouldn't be, because oftentimes it goes right back to them.
That's good to note. That's good to note in the back of my head. You were saying that you guys did a work session with her since it's been a few months. What is that process, and is that something that you typically do if you haven't seen an actor for a while? I guess.
Yeah, the idea behind that is just to get the actor comfortable. Because if you throw an actor right into
the lion's den,
a producer session or a test session or a chemistry read or whatever, and not either A, gotten the word out loud with somebody, or B, not, again, sort of had the benefit of putting things into context. Because not only had this woman not been back in quite a while, but we had all new material. So she needed to read it out loud with somebody who was used to reading it out loud. She needed to understand the context fully. She needed to get a few notes just so that she could fully understand what was going on and what precipitated this, and also why we changed the sides. Having that information is really helpful to the actor, saying we needed to see this from the character. That's why we have this new scene. That kind of thing helps an actor immensely. But just also getting them comfortable in the space, I think, is really important. So the director is going to come in for those bigger sessions, for the chemistry read or for the a test or whatever, and they're going to be the ones to direct the actors in that moment. But getting some notes from casting beforehand will help them, start on the right foot so that when the director gives them a note, it's not going to be a 180 from what they thought the scene should be. So it's really just sort of prepping the actor as best we can, so that when they get in the situation and somebody else is directing them, whether it's a producer, the director, or an executive or whatever, they already have their best foot forward and they're already feeling comfortable and confident with the material and with us. And, I think it also shows the actor that we're the ally. So we're in the room with you. You're in a safe place. This is going to be fine. If ever you don't understand something, look to me. I'll help try to clarify things if I can. I think just sort of putting the actor on the same team as casting is really a benefit of the work session as well.
And it's I mean, like you hear casting directors like, we're on the actor's side, but I mean, I think hearing something like that is comforting. It's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So like, you will work, I mean, if you feel like they're right for the part, that you will work with them and you will say like, hey, like, let's make sure we get this as fine-tuned as possible so that when you are in that room, you do the best that we know you can do. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes. And it's the same process when we bring an actor back 2 and 3 and 4 times. It's not because they ever did anything wrong. It's because we really like them. And we really want to have the opportunity. There's so many projects nowadays where all of casting is done off tape. So the producers aren't in the room, the director's not in the room until, the test, whatever. And so the actors are just in the room with casting and a camera. And so oftentimes we'll need to bring you back because the producers will see it or the director will see it and they'll say, I like this person, but I wish they would have done X. Or whatever, or they hit this beat a little bit too hard. And because they're not in the room with the actor, I think it helps them to see the read on tape exactly how they want to see the read. And so we'll bring them back to try to get to tweak exactly where we need to go. I think this happens more in TV than it does in film. I think film, because they have a longer process and they have oftentimes the benefit of a rehearsal process. They don't feel like they need to see the audition perfect. They can kind of see the qualities that they want to see and know that they can get what they want to get because they have the time. Whereas TV is so quick that oftentimes you need to look at that audition and be like, yep, that's the person, that's the read, cool.
Right.
So in TV, we'll read and reread and reread an actor to get the performance that we want to get. But we did a pilot recently where I read a couple people 3-4 times. And again, this is just me and a camera in the room. It's not like each time they come back, there's somebody new in the room or they're testing. It's just get the read that we want to get. And God bless them. Every actor we brought back had such a good attitude about it. Nobody was like, why are we doing this again? Nobody came back with that attitude. They all came back just gung ho, like, you want something else? Cool. Let's do it. Let's do this 10 times to see, the different colors we can pull out each time. They were all really great about it. And I think that's what an actor has to remember is that if you're getting called back, that's a good thing. Don't look at that as like, I don't know why they need to see me do this same scene again. Don't look at it that way. Look at it as an opportunity to explore the character again and find something different that you hadn't found before. Because each time you come back gets you a step closer. Even though it doesn't feel like it, because there's nobody new in the room necessarily. It's still working in your favor. And if you can remember that, I think you'll walk in with the right attitude of being open-minded and being ready to play, which is what all of these actors, bless their hearts, did when they saw us, 3 and 4 times in a 2-week period. So, that's really the biggest thing to remember with that stuff.
That. Now, I know we kind of already, and we probably already went over this, about like the audition. Has there been like a memorable like audition or something? You kind of already mentioned, like how actors, just being open-minded and playing in the room. But is there like something specific or a memorable audition that you were like, wow, that like I'll hold that dear to my heart kind of thing?
Oh my gosh, I have so many of them. There was the first one that comes to mind is we were casting an indie feature. This was years ago, and we brought in this woman, and she's a well-known theater actress, and she was playing the mother of this character that I was reading, and it was these two very emotional scenes about how you should kind of put your dreams aside so that you can take care of your family.
It's okay.
Sorry, my phone just went crazy there.
It's okay.
That was unexpected. So the scene was just this very heavy and emotional moment of like, don't follow your dreams, just do what's best for your family. And it was really sad, and it was, it was a tough scene that not everybody could get to the core of because it wasn't long. It was probably a page and a half, something like that. And this woman came in, and it was so grounded. And I was reading with her, so I'm sitting 2 feet away from her, and I'm the one fully engaged with her. And it was so grounded and so honest, and she wasn't pushing any emotion. It just happened, and wow. I started crying, and it was so powerful. And she walked out of the room, and the director looked at us, and he goes, "Can I go tell her she got the job?" And we're like, "Yes, that's go, amazing. Run after her." And he literally ran out to the parking lot and stopped her and told her that she got the job. But it was so special, and it was one of those moments where you're like, this is why we do this. These are the moments that we just long for and that we yearn for. And I think that kind of thing, not to that scale, because not every piece has a big emotional scene like that. But certainly every project that I've ever worked on has had that moment where you are with the person who is going to get the job because they are so connected to it and you are so connected to them, and there's no way that anybody else could play this role. And every piece has had that moment where you breathe it in with them, and you're like, oh God, you just feel it from your head to your toes. And that's sort of the magic of casting for me, is that moment. There's a lot of other things that go into casting, but they're, from the very, very beginning to that very moment is the best. Just, when you envision it and then it happens right in front of you is really, really special.
Very, satisfying.
Oh God, it's amazing. Wow. It's a beautiful thing.
Now, let's talk about the actors that are like, hey, I want to get noticed by you, the casting director, and because there's so many people that, I guess don't get that opportunity or feel like they're not getting it enough. They're like, if I can only get in that room and stuff like that. Like, sure. So, I mean, we talked about like the people that get in the room and that process and how amazing it is. And what about those people that are listening that are like, if only Erica can see me.
Yeah, yep, totally. Listen, it's a tough business. Let's just start by saying that. There is no right or wrong way to promote yourself, to get your agent or manager to work for you. There really isn't one particular path. But I think that what it comes down to is when you do get the opportunity, that you do good work. So focusing instead on, instead of being like, how am I going to get in the room? If only I can get in the room, as opposed to, I'm going to go focus on my craft so that when I do get in the room, I'm going to nail it. That's really what the focus should be. So, being in class, whatever class works for you, coaching, or just, working with your friends, if you've got a work group with other actors, something like that, so that you your focus is on the craft and not on the moment that you're in the room, that you walk into, that you finally get that moment with that one casting director that you've been dying to get in with. And you're so focused on being there with them as opposed to being present for the character.
I can see how that can happen because, it's like all this builds up.
Oh, completely. Oh, yeah. It happens all the time. And it happens to an actor who gets auditions often, but isn't booking, because they're just like, when am I going to book? How am I going to book? Am I going to book this one? I can totally book this one. I have to book this one.
Focus so much on the result than just being in the character in that moment.
Completely. And it's so easy to do. It's so easy to get distracted by that stuff. But you have to go back to your foundation. And why you're doing this in the first place, which is that you love to perform. You love finding these characters. You love playing these different roles. Developing that skill as opposed to trying so hard to get in the room, is really what's going to help you succeed when you do get in the room. And you will. And that's what all actors have to remember, is that if you focus on your craft and you really hone your skill, somebody's going to find you, or you're going to find them, and then you're going to get that opportunity. And guess what? You're going to nail it. But if you spend all your time trying to tweet at people to get them to notice you, or to cards to get them to notice you, or to do, a showcase or whatever to get them to notice you, you may succeed, but you're more likely to succeed if you can focus on your skill and craft, and really let that be what guides you when you get into the room. But I think for any actor who wants to keep in touch with casting directors who they know or don't know, the process has to be comfortable to that person. So, if something feels inauthentic to you as Crystal, like if you're not the kind of person who wants to tweet at casting directors to get them to notice you, then don't do it.
I'm taking that note.
Really, if you feel like it's really inauthentic to you, then don't do it. Everybody's going to have different opinions on how you should get noticed or how you should keep in touch with people. Do whatever feels right to you. That's going to feel the best to us too. Because if it feels wrong to you, it's going to feel wrong to us. If it feels creepy to you, it's going to feel creepy to us. For some people, doing the Twitter thing, doing the social media thing feels awesome to them. That is how they communicate, and they do it really well, and it makes them feel confident. Those people, it works for those people, but it doesn't work for everybody. So you just have to do whatever feels right to you, and then it's going to feel right for us too.
I love that. Now, talking a little bit about tweeting, social media.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
the tweeting.
Now, the actors are like freaking out because they're like, oh my gosh, if I don't have a big following, if I don't have this, then, it's like, I'm not going to get in the room, or I'm not going to get booked the job because so-and-so has, star power over me.
Yes, I've heard this dilemma before. My personal opinion on this is that talent wins over followers. It will always win. I think there was certainly a period where having the social media followers was more important to a lot of people. And you can understand why. I mean, it's sort of an immediate built-in audience. So for all those indie filmmakers that are trying to get their movies made or shown or seen, to know that somebody has 2 million YouTube followers, YouTube subscribers or whatever, it's like, oh my God, my film could be watched by all of these people. And so you can understand where the original desire came from. But since then, people have heard that you can inflate your social media followers inauthentically. And then also a couple, people have hired some of those YouTubers or Vine people or whatever, and realize that they're not trained actors. They're performers, and they have a very specific skill set, but they can't necessarily read dialogue well. And so they have put them in their movies and realized that they don't really know how to take direction. They can't do dialogue very well. And So they're not actors. They're not traditional actors. They're performers. And so I think people have moved away from that idea a bit. And really, if it's between two people that have, one has social media followers and the other one has the skill, and the person who has the social media followers isn't, Brad Pitt. They're just social media. They'll probably go with the person who has the talent. That's been my experience, that they'll go with the person who has the talent over the social media followers. There was an article recently where, oh my God, I'm forgetting her name, but the girl who plays Sansa Stark on
I read that.
Game of Thrones said that she got a job over what she said was another actress who had much more talent than she did because of her social media followers. But you have to remember, she is a well-known entity. It's not like she is just this. Yeah, she's not just this person who became famous on Vine or became famous on YouTube. She is this very sought-after actress who happens to have 2 million followers because of her
yes, exactly.
acting, because her performance as this character. So to throw that aside, is silly. The producers get sort of both benefits from her in that she has a major following, but she's also an actress, a well-known actress.
Huge,
so
television show. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I don't want that to discourage actors who are like, oh man, I was just thinking I didn't need to get my social media followers up. And then there's an article, I mean, I don't use that as
I say that all
example.
The time. Like we're like actors who probably don't even have much of a following, but then, they get on a big show and all of a sudden now their following is huge. So, I mean, I think it's just like you said, it just goes back to just like the work as an actor. And if people love your character, they're going to then follow you because of that.
Yeah. So, focus on the work, become famous, and then you can have the followers.
Don't get the followers and then hope that'll...
Let that be... Yeah, let that be the process. Would you rather be known as a award-winning actor or a, YouTube person who has 2 million followers? I mean, look at it that way. Let that be your guide. And if the choice is that you would rather be well known on YouTube, then go for it. Like, don't let that stop you. Certainly those people make an amazing living and have their own careers that way. It depends on what your goal is.
Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was, are you seeing when you are going through these scripts or when you're getting notes for casting certain characters for TV pilots or projects that you're working on, are you noticing them being more open-minded to diversity, to like, okay.
Oh, yes. Yes. They, on almost every project we've been on, there are certain characters that are written diverse, but inevitably they want to open up the whole world to diversity, which is great. There's been many roles where they say, see the best actors. So if there's a reason that the character is written diverse, then we focus on that specific ethnicity. If it's not written diverse, then they're like, just see whoever. So we can see all colors, all types. There's even sometimes where we can see both men and women if they're that open-minded. But yeah, I think on every single project now, unless a character is written with a very specific background, like on a project we had, a character was written, she was Latina and she had a Spanish-speaking family. She had to be able to speak Spanish, and that was actually really important to the character, to the world, to the producers and the writers. So that's what we focused on. But if we were having trouble and we said to them, you know what, we're not finding it in this type, can we open it up to different types? They may have, but they would have, in that particular instance, they would have had to change so much and so many auxiliary characters to make them not Spanish speaking. So they really wanted to keep it that way. But on any other project, if a role is written as Caucasian, but we're having trouble with it, and then they'll say, open it up. Let's see who else we can find. Or if a role is written as African American, but we're not finding it. Sometimes they'll say, open it up, but keep it diverse. So everybody is very cognizant of it, and not because they want to check a box or anything, but because they want to reflect our world, our society. And it's, that wasn't a thing, 15 years ago, but nowadays it really is. They want to show, portray real world and real life. And that's really important to the writers and the producers. So, yeah, I'd say in every project we get now, there are a couple characters that either are already written diverse, or when we're going through each character conceptually with them, they say, let's focus on diverse for these specific characters, or let's see all types for all roles, but it is a conversation on every project that we have now, which is great.
Now, one more thing that I really wanted to get to was pitching. Like when an agent and manager pitches, or I don't know if you're open to an actor, if they, heard through the grapevine, like a role that they're or they know that you're casting this project and they feel like they're fit for it. Are you open to it, or what does compel you to then maybe respond to that?
Sure. Pitching is really important. As much as we say we don't want pitches because we want to just focus on our, submissions and auditions and everything else, pitching will often show us people who we had skipped over, or who we hadn't thought of, or who we just don't know. So yeah, pitching is really important, and it's great when it's done well. And every casting director will tell you what they like or don't like about it. So for me, it's being specific to this role, not just I'm 30 and a female, so I'm right for this. It's what exactly makes you right for it? What can you bring to it? What have you, do you have a piece of footage that speaks to this kind of character or this kind of world, or have you done a piece of theater that would resonate with this kind of piece or character? Being specific in your pitch as opposed to just being like, "Hi, I submitted myself," or "I submitted my client. Please take a look."
General.
That's it's just calling attention to the fact that you're out there, but it's not actually making me interested in looking at you more so for this than anything else. So for me, the best pitches are specific. They spell out why this particular actor is right for this role, and they're really paying attention to the character description and the synopsis and everything else, and not just blindly submitting you because you happen to be Latina and we're looking for Latina, or we are, like I said, we want a 20-year-old female and you're 20 and female, but you have no other qualities that are right for this.
Is it hard because I know co-stars are probably can someone even pitch for a co-star? Because it's you see them.
Yeah. For actors pitching themselves, listen, you have to work for yourself. If you are lucky enough to have an agent or a manager or both, that's amazing. But even still, you have, half of an actor's job is self-promotion, whether you like it or not. So you have to be able to find a way to do that. Again, however it feels authentic to you. Don't do anything where you're like, I feel really stupid doing this, or I feel like I feel yucky doing this, and don't do it. But certainly if there's a role out there that you feel passionately about, that you could be right for, and you have a connection or a communication already started with a casting director, you have their information and you feel confident in reaching out to them, then do so. But I'd say save it for the ones that you feel really passionate about. So if there's a a co-star, a one-line co-star out there, and we said it's male or female between age 20 and 40, maybe don't do it on that one. Save it for the one where you know that you could really bring something to this particular role, and you want to remind that casting director that you're out there and why you could be great for this. Because, as we're going through those co-stars, we're pulling faces as much as we are resumes. We want a great face, or we want somebody who looks real or whatever. So we have a very specific idea in mind, and we're picking people based on more than what we're necessarily putting out in the breakdown. So I'd say leave those ones to us, unless again the breakdown for that co-star is really specific and that's exactly who you are. But otherwise, again, save your self-promotion and your communication for the ones that you're like, I would love to audition for this, or this is the project that I'm dying to get in on, or whatever. Save it for those things, so that you aren't, emailing a casting director every week when you see a co-star, which is just woman. Okay, trust us to remember you, if we want to read you for those things.
Right. I love that. I love it. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Is there any last words or anything that you feel like that you want to just leave us with?
Sure. Like I said, it's a tough business. I think holding on to why you decided to become an actor in the first place is the most important thing for any actor out there. No matter the age, no matter how long your resume is, going back to your foundation. Why did you decide to do this? What is it about acting that gets your thrill, that makes you excited? Whether it's, if being in class or coaching, or, just doing some theater, or developing a web series, or anything like that. Just focus on that stuff. Because if you sit around and you just wait for an audition, or you wait to book your next job, you're going to go crazy. And it's too easy to burn out that way. So keep focused on your passion. And hopefully acting is your passion. And if it's not your passion, I'd say go do something else, because it's tough enough out here. But keep your brain focused on why you decided to do this and what you love about it, and the rest of it will come. It really will. And as I said numerous times during our interview, remember that casting directors are on your side. The audition process is tough, but know that you have an ally in the room with you. We promise we're there for you. We really do want you to succeed. And if you've gotten an audition and you made it into the room, we already like you. So just remember that. That's the biggest thing.
That's awesome. You're amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks. And for any actors that need that constant inspiration, I am trying to do a weekly blog.
Let's tell them. Oh, yeah, because and she has a beautiful article that she just put out, that you just put out, about self-love, about the actors not putting themselves down in the room, which we touched on. But so definitely let us know where we can find you and get more information on you.
Yes. So my website has more information about me. It's Erica, ERICAS, Bream, BREAM, casting.com. And then the blog is ericasbreamcasting.com/blog. And I'm doing coaching for actors who are needing an audition coach, and consulting for actors who are feeling a little stuck and maybe need some guidance.
Ask you another question. What's the difference between you as the casting director coaching, than like me just getting like an acting coach?
Well, for me as a casting director, when I see you, it's for my particular project. And any work that we do is for my project, this particular role that I'm casting. Whereas the audition coaching that I'm doing is for any audition that you may have for any project that you feel you just want another set of eyes on, and maybe want a perspective of somebody who has been through the audition ringer a gazillion times, and has a good behind the camera perspective and can help you sort of, break down the character a little bit more, find little elements, look at it and see what works, what doesn't work, any little things, that technical things that you may want to go over, do I need to throw a punch here? Yeah. Do I need to do any of that stuff? That actors are always like, there's this physical beat in here. Do I have to acknowledge that? Going through some of that stuff, I think with a casting director who coaches can be wildly beneficial. Awesome. So that's really the difference. And for me, doing audition coaching is so fun because I get to play on different projects, on other people's projects. So, it's different characters for me, different worlds. It's such a fun thing for me. So that's really the biggest difference. Is one is particular to my projects, and one is just sort of another set of eyes before you read for somebody else's project.
Love it. And then on Twitter, you're pretty active on Twitter. What if people do want to genuinely tweet at you? Where can they do that at?
Yes. You are welcome. If that is how you want to communicate with me, I am all for it. It's Erica S. Breamcast.
All right. I hope you guys got some really good gems from listening to that episode with Erica. I want to thank you again for taking the time to speak with us, because any information that we can get from your perspective can help us as the actor in our journey to strengthen and to be working great careers. So as Erica said, we can reach her through her website at ericasbreamcasting.com. She is very active on Twitter. She's doing where you can ask her questions, and on Twitter for certain casting stuff. So definitely, if you're not already, go follow Erica, because she gives some really awesome advice, and you can follow her at Erica Breamcast. And also, like she said, she is a casting director, and if you're developing a short film, a feature film, a pilot, a web series, she has tons of experience. So definitely reach out to her if you need advice for casting. Also, auditioning for coaching. I didn't even think of that. What the heck? Duh. Why wouldn't you want to be coached by the casting director? Hello. So that's awesome. And also, she said that she does consulting. So if you feel like wherever you are in your career, whether it's you're just getting started, you've been doing this for a while, but you're trying to break into, more guest stars, more recurring, series regular, or if you just want to talk to her about your materials, Erica is available for consulting. So definitely check out her website. And she has an awesome blog, and she talks all about the auditions and just really, really awesome stuff. So definitely head to her blog, which would be at ericabreamcasting.com/blog. All right. So enjoy, guys. And of course, check us out on the website, risetotriumph.com. And if you want to holla at me, check us out at Rise to Triumph on Twitter, on Instagram, and Facebook. And see you guys on the next one. Peace.